The phone wasn't hers, at least not the one I knew. It was 6:12 p.m. on a Wednesday. She was in the shower. We were supposed to leave for her boss's birthday dinner in 45 minutes, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed, putting on the shoes she always said made me look accidentally expensive. Then I heard the buzz. Once, twice, then again. But it wasn't coming from the nightstand. It was muffled, hidden. I followed the sound like a bloodhound, confused, heart already picking up speed without understanding why. It was coming from inside the dresser behind her folded sweaters. I pulled them back like a curtain, and there it was, a phone I'd never seen before. Black case, no stickers, no fingerprints, clean like it had just been bought or hidden very deliberately. It lit up again. Do not answer. That's what the contact name said. And then another message popped up underneath it. Tell him yet. He deserves to know, right? LOL. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. My whole body knew something had snapped. My stomach clenched like I'd swallowed ice. I stared at the screen until it went dark. She came out of the shower, humming, wrapped in a towel, steam trailing behind her like she was stepping out of some other universe where nothing was wrong. I just stood there, heart pounding, palms sweating, 1,000 questions crashing together into a single quiet sentence. How long have you had two phones? Her smile vanished. She looked past me straight into the drawer. And for a moment, just a moment, she didn't even look surprised. She just whispered, "So, you found it," the way she said it. Calm. No panic, no shock, no backpedaling, just acceptance. Like I'd finally stumbled into a room she'd left unlocked months ago. I didn't say anything right away. I just kept staring at her. Towel wrapped around her like some kind of weak armor. Water still dripping from her collarbone. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. My throat was dry, but my hands were sweating. That damn phone was still lighting up behind me in the drawer. I heard another buzz, another message I didn't want to read. She took a slow step toward the dresser, but froze when I shifted slightly. Just a twitch, but it was enough. Her eyes flicked back to mine. And for the first time in 8 years of being together, I saw a version of her that wasn't mine. Not the Elara who made blueberry pancakes at midnight. Not the Elara who snorted when she laughed. This version was cold, calculating, like she was assessing her options. Not her husband. I finally spoke. "Who is he?" Silence. "Elara, who's messaging you?" Still nothing. I tried again, louder this time. "Who the hell is do not answer?" She flinched, just a little. Then she sighed like I was being dramatic. She walked past me, opened the closet, and started pulling out a dress like we were still going to dinner, like I hadn't just found a second phone in her drawer with messages from a mystery contact. I watched her zip the dress halfway, hands still damp, and that's when she said it. "It's not what you think." God, that phrase. Those 5 words that people only use when it's exactly what you think. I walked over to the drawer, grabbed the phone, and held it up. "Elara, this is your phone. This is your secret phone. This has messages coming in from someone you're clearly hiding. So, no, I don't know what I think. You tell me." She finally turned around. Her face was pale, but her jaw was set. "You're right," she said. "I should have told you sooner. I just didn't know how." "Tell me what?" "I've been talking to someone. It started a few months ago. It was innocent, just texting, venting. He understood things about me that I didn't think you did anymore." I felt something twist in my chest. Not rage, not even betrayal, just that slow, suffocating kind of heartbreak that makes you realize the relationship's been rotting while you were busy watering the plants. I tried to stay calm. "So, you've been confiding in someone else for months, secretly behind my back, and he told you I deserve to know?" Her eyes dropped. "He's been pushing me to be honest, said I was being a coward." I couldn't help it. I laughed. A short, bitter laugh that scared even me. So the guy you're emotionally cheating with is the one with the moral compass? I didn't cheat, Elara. I snapped, voice cracking. You hid a second phone. That's not something people do when they're just texting about their day. Her expression changed then, hardened, like I'd crossed some invisible line. You think I wanted this? She snapped. You think I planned this? You've been distant for a year, Marcus. You come home exhausted. You don't listen. You don't touch me. You treat life like a checklist. I felt invisible. And yes, maybe I made a mistake, but I cut her off. You had options, Elara. You could have talked to me, asked for counseling, screamed, thrown a plate, but you picked this. She didn't answer. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't sorry. Not really. She regretted getting caught, regretted the timing. But the look in her eyes told me she didn't regret him. That scared me more than anything. I stood there for another moment, my heart hammering, the phone still in my hand. Then I turned around, walked to the kitchen, and calmly placed it in the freezer. She yelled after me, "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just opened the fridge, pulled out the creme brulee I had chilling from the night before, and smashed it into the trash. Because some things you can't sweeten. Some things you don't recover from. It's been said that no one makes rational decisions when they're in emotional shock. I used to think that was just something people said to justify bad behavior. But when I slid her second phone into the freezer, it wasn't to be dramatic. It was instinct. Like my brain couldn't decide between destroying it or preserving it. So it split the difference. Cold silence. That's what I wanted. Cold silence. At least for a moment. Elara followed me into the kitchen, her heels clicking too loudly on the tile. She stopped a few feet behind me, like she wasn't sure if she should speak. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to look at her dress. I didn't want to see the steam still rising off her shoulders. I didn't want to remember 5 years of love while standing beside a trash can full of shattered dessert. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said quietly. That's what she offered me. Not the truth, not an explanation, just a prepackaged sentiment, as if that made any of it better. "You didn't want to hurt me," I repeated, still not turning around. "So you kept a burner phone in a drawer full of sweaters." She said nothing. I finally faced her. "You've been living a double life in the same house as me. How long? Just tell me how long." She crossed her arms. "About 7 months." I blinked. 7? That was before our anniversary trip, before Valentine's Day. Before that weekend, she said she had a design conference in Vermont and brought me back a keychain that said, "You're my favorite adventure." I remembered holding that keychain in my palm like it meant something. Meanwhile, she was probably riding in someone else's passenger seat, laughing at jokes that weren't mine. I felt the world tilt again. Only this time, it wasn't dramatic. It was dull and slow and full of shame. Shame that I hadn't noticed. Shame that I believed her. Shame that I was still hoping she'd say it was all a mistake. "Who is he?" I asked again, softer this time. "Just tell me." She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the hesitation. That internal tug of war where part of her still wanted to lie, but she didn't. "It's someone from my cycling group." The sentence hit me sideways. I actually squinted. Cycling group. She nodded. "We started talking after a ride. It was harmless. Then it wasn't." That part stung in a way I didn't expect. Not because she'd met someone, but because I'd never even been invited to those rides. I always told her I wasn't into biking, and she always said it's just my thing. And I let it be hers because I thought boundaries were healthy, because I didn't want to be that husband. Now I understood why she liked it so much. I leaned against the counter and laughed, not because anything was funny, but because the weight in my chest needed to escape somehow.
I wiped my face and realized I was shaking. My voice came out hoarse. "So, when you said you were going to your early morning rides, you were actually riding someone else?" Elara's face twisted with guilt and rage at the same time. "You don't get to say it like that. It wasn't just about sex." "Congratulations," I spat. "You had a meaningful betrayal." She stepped forward. "Marcus, I was unhappy for a long time. I needed something to remind me I was alive." That broke me, because I had spent the last year thinking we were just going through a rough patch. I'd Googled how to reconnect with your spouse. I'd planned surprise dinners, tried new things in bed, even read a damn book on communication. I thought I was fighting for us. She was already gone.
That's when I made the second irrational decision of the night. I walked back to the freezer, pulled out the phone, screen now fogged and cold, and turned it on. She screamed at me to stop, but I didn't listen. The phone flickered to life, and I saw the text that pushed everything off the edge. "Can't wait for next weekend. He still doesn't know, does he?" Winking face. Below that was a picture, a blurry photo of Elara, my wife, curled up in the passenger seat of a car, eyes closed, lips parted. She looked peaceful, intimate, vulnerable in a way she hadn't been with me in months. And it was time-stamped, last Saturday, the same night she told me she had a late team brainstorm. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just handed her the phone and walked upstairs to the guest room. Not because I forgave her, not because I was calm, but because if I'd stayed in that kitchen 1 second longer, I would have said something I couldn't take back. The guest room always smelled like forgotten linen and lemon floor cleaner. It was the room we kept for guests who never stayed. A half-furnished space with a fold-out bed that squeaked if you breathed too hard. I lay on top of the comforter, fully dressed, shoes still on, staring at the ceiling fan. It didn't spin. It never worked. Just another thing in this house that had stopped moving, and no one bothered to fix it. Elara didn't come upstairs that night. I listened to her pace the hallway for a while, stopping outside the guest room door like she wanted to say something, but she never knocked. Eventually, I heard the soft creak of our bedroom door closing. I stayed awake long after. I don't know what I expected the next morning. A note, a tearful apology, maybe silence. But what I got was worse. I came downstairs to find her sitting at the table, drinking coffee like it was a regular Thursday. Her hair was tied back, still damp from a shower. She had the same look she wore the day we signed our mortgage. Calm, calculated, like she'd already made peace with her decision. "I think we should talk," she said, not even glancing up from her mug. I didn't sit down. "I want a name," I said. She hesitated, just a beat too long. "His name is Leo." That was it. No last name, no context, just Leo, the guy from your cycling group. She nodded. "And how long has it been physical?" She looked down. 2 months. I laughed under my breath. Not because it was funny, because that meant everything before that was just the build-up. The secret smiles, the flirty texts, the emotional intimacy. That part lasted 5 months before she even touched him, and somehow that felt worse. I finally sat down across from her. My voice came out too quiet. "What does he have that I don't?" She shook her head, eyes watery now. "It's not like that." "Yes, it is," I said. "It always is. You don't burn your life down for not like that." She closed her eyes, took a long breath, and then opened her phone. Not the hidden one, her regular one. She tapped around for a second and then slid it across the table. "I didn't want you to find out like this, but now that it's all out there, here." I stared at the screen. A profile. Leo Matten, co-founder of some boutique wellness brand in the city. Muscles, bearded.
One of those smirks that screams, "I surf and I meditate, and I'll fix your broken sink shirtless if you need me to." His bio had quotes about being present and earning energy. The kind of guy who probably called wine juice and told people to drink gratitude before water. But that wasn't the worst part. There were photos. One was from a charity ride. Elara was in the background laughing, helmet hanging from her handlebars. But there was another picture, a private one, not on the public profile, one she must have received directly. It was Leo, shirtless, in what looked like our bathroom mirror. The tiles matched, the damned curtain matched. He'd been in my home? "When was this taken?" I asked, trying not to lose it. She didn't answer. "Elara, when?" "2 weeks ago," she said finally. "You were out of town for the regional managers meeting." Of course. The conference. The one where I FaceTimed her from the hotel, and she said the Wi-Fi was spotty. I asked her if she missed me. She said yes and smiled so warmly I believed her. I pushed the phone away. "You let him in our house?" "He didn't go upstairs." "That's supposed to make it better?" Her voice cracked. "I didn't want it to get this far, but it did." I stood up, pacing. My hands were fists without realizing it. "You could have ended it at any point. The first text, the first ride, the first time he offered to drop you off, the first time he called you beautiful." She didn't speak. Silence again, her favorite defense. And then, for some reason, maybe because I wanted to punish myself, I asked a question I never should have. "Do you love him?" It took her too long to answer, and when she did, it was the softest whisper I've ever heard. "I don't know." That was worse than yes, because I don't know means maybe. I don't know means I'm thinking about it. It means part of her already did, and the rest of her was deciding whether it was worth saying out loud. I grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" she asked, standing up suddenly. "I don't know," I said, throwing her words back. "But I can't breathe in this house right now."
I left, drove nowhere, no destination, no plan, just me and the road, and the slow dawning realization that the woman I married, the one who used to text me poems and fall asleep on my chest during thunderstorms, was already halfway gone before I ever noticed the cracks. And somewhere out there, Leo was probably sipping green tea, proud of himself. But I wasn't done yet. The car smelled like cheap pine-scented air freshener and something sour I couldn't quite place, like leftover fast food or maybe the inside of me. I hadn't eaten since yesterday, unless you count the 2 mints I chewed and immediately spat out. I sat in the farthest corner of the gas station parking lot, engine off, phone in my lap, staring at Leo's profile picture. It felt like staring at a wolf through a screen. He was leaning on a bike, smiling, sunlight glinting off his sunglasses like he didn't have a care in the world. I imagined him standing in my kitchen, drinking from my glasses, maybe even feeding my dog treats while I was giving a quarterly budget update 80 miles away. I didn't know what I wanted to say. I didn't know if I wanted to scream or beg or just hear the voice of the man who'd managed to make my wife forget I existed. But I couldn't let this end in silence. I had to hear it from him. I found the number in her second phone's contact list before I'd left. It was just labeled L. No emoji, no last name, like a secret you only whisper. I hit call. It rang twice, then again, then, "Yeah?" His voice was casual, like he answered unknown numbers all the time. "This is Marcus," I said. There was a pause, a long one. Then, "Oh." He didn't say anything else, didn't ask how I got his number, didn't apologize. Just, "Oh," like he'd been expecting this day to come eventually. I waited. He waited. The silence became a battlefield. "You've been sleeping with my wife." Another pause.
Yes. No denial, no excuses. Just a yes. Crisp, undressed, a word with teeth. Why? I asked. Why her? This time he chuckled, a small, patronizing sound. She came to me. I didn't hunt her down, if that's what you're asking. We talked, she vented. It became more. That's how this usually goes. I gripped the steering wheel with my free hand. Usually? Marcus, he said my name like a sigh. You seem like a good guy. Really, you do. But she's not yours anymore. That made my vision blur, not from tears, from rage. I gritted my teeth so hard my jaw popped. You don't know anything about me. I know enough, he replied. She told me a lot. You stopped seeing her, really seeing her a long time ago. I just stepped into a vacuum you left open. She was my wife, I snapped.
She is your wife. For now, he corrected. But we both know how this ends. I was shaking, actually shaking, but I couldn't hang up. I needed something, anything. What do you want from her? I asked, almost whispering. Do you love her? He didn't answer right away. I don't know yet, he said. But I know she feels more alive when she's with me than when she's with you. And honestly, that's not on me. That's on you. I should have hung up. I should have blocked the number, driven home, packed my bags, and never looked back. But instead, I said something I hadn't planned. Did you sleep in our bed? Silence. Then, no. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. But I sat on it, he added, and I swear I could hear the smirk. She showed me the photo of you two on the nightstand. You looked safe, comfortable, like a man who thinks he has time. I hung up. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I didn't punch the dashboard. I just sat there, my ears ringing, hands trembling, mouth dry. He was right. I had thought I had time. Time to fix things. Time to get back what we'd lost. Time to be a better husband. But time isn't a guarantee. It's a currency. And I'd spent too much of it assuming Elara would always be there. I went back home 4 hours later. She was sitting on the couch, TV on mute, staring at nothing. She looked up at me like she wanted to ask where I'd been, but stopped herself. Smart move. I walked past her and went straight to the bedroom. Not to sleep, not to talk, to pack. Because the moment he said, "She's not yours anymore," I realized he was right. But not because he stole her, because she left first. Packing was supposed to be the clean break. That was the plan. Get my clothes, take my toothbrush, ignore the framed photo of us hiking in Vermont, and leave before the emotional gravity of the house could pull me back. I figured I'd sleep at a friend's place, crash on the couch, listen to his podcasting roommate play lo-fi beats at 2 a.m., and slowly disassemble the memory of my marriage over the course of a few months. But life doesn't let you leave neatly. As I was folding one of my sweaters, the gray one she used to borrow whenever she got cold watching TV, something slipped out from between the folds. A notebook, slim, leather-bound. I hadn't seen it in years. It used to be my travel journal, back when I still thought journaling would keep me grounded. The last time I opened it, I'd written 3 paragraphs about a canceled flight and never picked it back up. Except, when I opened it now, it wasn't my handwriting. It was hers. And not just hers. The first page was familiar. Elara's loops and curls, her lowercase i's dotted with tiny circles, like she was stuck in the margins of high school. But halfway through the journal, the handwriting changed. Blockier, all caps, no punctuation, masculine in that try-hard minimalist way. Leo's. My stomach sank. I flipped through the pages, heart racing, eyes devouring every ink mark. At first, it looked like harmless scribbles, doodles, quotes, inside jokes. She'd write a few lines, then he'd reply. Some pages were flirtatious, some were emotional.
But as I kept going, the content started shifting, and fast. They had been passing this journal back and forth, leaving it hidden in the side pocket of her gym bag, like kids, like spies. But it wasn't just a cute secret. It was a record, a blueprint. That's when I found the list. It was titled, "Things He Doesn't Know," underlined twice in Leo's handwriting. There were 7 bullet points beneath it. He still thinks I stopped going to therapy because I got better. I read his emails when he leaves his laptop open. I know the password to his work Slack. I lied about the miscarriage. I lied about Vermont. It was never a conference. He didn't notice the necklace was new. He never asked why I get home late on Wednesdays. I felt the room shift around me. Time dilated. The air felt thinner. The miscarriage. We'd cried over it. We'd sat on the floor of the bathroom, her shaking, me holding her like I was trying to stop her from unraveling. I blamed myself. Stress, work, bad timing. We lit a candle for the baby that never existed. We gave that moment a name, and she wrote it down like a trivia fact. I felt a cold sweat break out along my spine. I dropped the journal on the bed like it had burned me. My first instinct was to scream. My second was to storm downstairs and confront her. But then I hesitated, because something didn't add up. If she was hiding this so carefully, why leave it in my old sweater? Why risk me finding it now? Unless she didn't. Unless this wasn't meant for me at all. That's when I noticed something tucked into the very back cover. A receipt. Coffee shop, 2 weeks ago. Paid in cash. 1 cappuccino, 1 black tea, 1 muffin, and a note written in blue ink on the back. Leave this in the drawer by the furnace. He never checks there. The drawer by the furnace was in the garage, buried under old paint cans and Christmas decorations. And that's when everything dropped into place. I wasn't supposed to find the journal, because it was never meant to be hidden from me. It was meant to be transferred between them. They were still passing it back and forth. I wasn't discovering evidence of the past. I was intercepting a live feed. I clutched the book to my chest and sat down hard on the bed, breath shallow, heart pounding. They weren't just cheating. They were documenting it, curating it, treating it like an art project, a shared experience, something they could look back on. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. Not like a fire, but like a quiet, irreversible click. Because I didn't just want answers anymore. I wanted to finish the game. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, the journal on the table, and the silence humming around me like static. Elara was upstairs. I could hear her faint movements, drawers opening, closet doors shifting, the whispery rhythm of her pacing. She had no idea I'd found it, no idea that I had flipped through something sacred to her and someone else. A paper trail of betrayal signed in blue ink. But I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to break dishes or throw accusations into the air like confetti. I'd done that before. I'd played the crying husband, the man on the edge. This time, I wanted to play something else. So, I picked up the pen.
I turned to the last page in the journal, the one right after Things He Doesn't Know, and I wrote in neat, deliberate handwriting. I read every page. I saw every lie. You had your game. Now I'll play mine. Let's see who really doesn't know. Then I drew a small smiley face next to it, something unsettling, childish, detached. I closed the journal, wiped my fingerprints off the cover, and slid it into a canvas grocery bag. I left the house at 4:30 in the morning. While it was still dark and the street lights gave everything that weird yellow glow that makes reality feel 2 steps to the left. I drove in silence. No music, no GPS, just me and the hum of the tires on the pavement.
The garage door creaked when I opened it, the kind of sound you'd never notice unless you were trying to be quiet. I dug behind the furnace, past a broken space heater and a crate of tangled holiday lights, until I found it. A rusted metal drawer mounted low on the wall, almost invisible unless you knew it was there. The transfer zone. I placed the journal gently inside and slid the drawer shut. Then I waited. I left the garage door unlocked. That was intentional. I left the side gate propped open, just enough to be inviting. I parked my car 1 block over and walked back on foot, slipping into the shadows behind our backyard fence. I had a clear line of sight to the garage, and I waited. I stood there for almost an hour. It was cold. I could see my breath. I kept thinking about all the things I could be doing instead of standing in the dark like a man in a crime thriller. I could be calling a lawyer. I could be packing more bags. I could be halfway to my brother's cabin 3 towns over. But no, I needed to see it for myself. At exactly 5:52 a.m., someone entered the yard. It was him. Leo, bike helmet in one hand, messenger bag slung across his chest. He moved fast, too fast for someone who'd been here before. Like he knew this was risky now. Like some part of him suspected the balance had shifted. He didn't linger. Just walked into the garage, opened the drawer, took the journal, slipped it into his bag, and turned to leave. But right before he stepped out, he paused. I held my breath. He looked toward the house, just for a second. Then he shook his head and left. I waited 5 more minutes, then returned inside. My hands were frozen, my legs ached, but inside me something else had shifted. A kind of eerie calm. Not peace exactly, just clarity. Because now I knew 2 things. First, they were still in contact, still operating under the illusion that I was in the dark. Second, Leo was the type of man who checked for threats, who paused at doorways, who suspected he wasn't alone, which meant I had time, but not much. I went upstairs. Elara was in bed, pretending to be asleep. I could tell from the way her breathing slowed unnaturally the moment I opened the door. I didn't say anything. I just sat in the chair by the window and watched the sky change colors. Later that morning, she came downstairs, dressed for work, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. She asked me if I was feeling better. I looked her right in the eye. "Much," I said. "Everything's finally making sense." She smiled, nodded, kissed me on the cheek, and left. I watched her drive off. Then I turned to my laptop, opened a private browser window, and searched his name again. Not the public profile, not the sanitized, meditation-loving boyfriend version. I dug deeper. Within 15 minutes, I found something. Not scandalous, not criminal, but just off. Leo Madden wasn't his real name. His legal name was James Theodore Latner, and under that name, he had a sealed case file in another state, civil court, redacted. No details, but the date, 18 months ago. Well before he met Elara. That was the moment I realized this man didn't just break relationships, he collected them. It's strange the moment you realize you've survived something. It doesn't happen when the screaming stops or the door slams. It doesn't even happen when you finally cry. Survival sneaks up on you. It happens in the silence days later when you find yourself laughing at a dumb commercial or putting cinnamon in your coffee just because you can. For me, it happened in a storage unit. 3 weeks had passed since I last saw Elara. The morning after Leo took the journal, she came home from work early, said she needed to talk, and asked if I'd be open to counseling. She looked hollow when she said it. Not hopeful, just tired. Like she was checking the box, because that's what you're supposed to do before you let go of someone. I told her no, but I didn't scream, I didn't guilt her, I didn't beg. I just said, I hope he turns out to be who you think he is. She didn't cry, just nodded once, took the car keys we agreed she'd keep, and walked out. I watched her pull out of the driveway like it was any other Tuesday. It wasn't. That night, I went into the garage, opened the drawer by the furnace one last time, and left the journal exactly where they'd expect it. But this time, I'd replaced every page with blank ones. I'd carefully unbound the spine, slid out the original contents, and inserted 100 clean sheets, pure white, untouched, empty. I didn't do it out of revenge, not even pettiness. I did it because I wanted them to know something without ever saying it. Your story ends here. The next pages, they're yours to ruin. The originals, I took them to a storage facility on the edge of town. Burned every one of them inside a rusted barrel behind my rented unit. The fire was slow, reluctant almost, like the pages didn't want to go. But eventually, it all turned to ash. The confessions, the secrets, the smug little smiley face I had left to bait him. When I walked away from the ashes, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. The next few weeks were hard, I won't lie. Heartbreak doesn't clock out just because you've made the right decisions. There were days I wanted to call her. Nights I'd wake up and reach across the bed before remembering no one was there. I even caught myself wondering if Leo had found the blank pages yet, and whether he thought it was Elara who'd done it. But then something changed. It started with a phone call from an old friend, someone I hadn't talked to since college, someone who'd heard through someone else that I was going through something. He invited me to visit for the weekend, clear my head. I said yes. That one trip turned into 3. I hiked, I cooked new recipes, I laughed at stupid movies. I stopped looking at my phone every 5 minutes. I started to feel like someone again. Last weekend, I went to a local art walk. On a whim, no plans, just a flyer on a bulletin board at a cafe. I wandered through one of the exhibits and stood frozen in front of a piece that looked like a smashed mirror glued back together. Below it was a quote: "You don't get to choose who breaks you, but you do get to decide what you build from the pieces." I smiled, not because it fixed everything, but because it reminded me I could. Today, my apartment is small. It has a crooked faucet and terrible Wi-Fi, but the air feels light, honest. I water my plants, I talk to my neighbors. I started writing again, not in a journal, but on a battered old laptop with missing keys. I even made a new playlist, no sad songs. And this morning, while walking through the farmer's market, someone asked if I was in line. She had green eyes and a half laugh in her voice. She smiled like she meant it. I said yes. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it.